one on the agenda, consent agenda, previous minutes, reports, second reading. Anyone have anything on that?
No, I'll make a motion.
You make a motion, Kevin?
A second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. We have no visitors. Superintendent's not here yet, so I guess we'll go on to you, Morgan.
And I'm not gonna be able to drag this out much. I sent the financial update in your packets. Again, I think we're gonna be to the good in terms of tuition dollars, but I haven't really drilled into the hirings from one year to the next to see how you guys are doing in terms of salary. But I certainly don't have any concerns going into it unless Beth is gonna tell me otherwise. So I think you'll be fine in terms of end of year in your general fund. I've not seen a draft of the audit. Last week, the auditors contacted us asking for more information. I'm not worried by any of that. I think they just didn't do all the field work when they were here. But I'm hoping that that means that we will be getting it shortly. We've gotten the SU audit so far and 2 of the other town districts, and all 3 have been clean. In terms of the budget, Beth and I tried a couple of times to get together, and we've been canceling each other's meetings. So we have not drilled into this for a second look. I've not brought anything forward to you because the other piece that we're missing is really anything in terms of the revenue side and the drivers for the tax rate. December 15th is the day they're supposed to give us equalized pupils. About a day before, we got a spreadsheet that would help us guess what they might be. I think we're gonna get it before we have to warn budgets, but it's gonna be probably a couple of weeks. CLA will be coming out at the end of this month. And then obviously the budget is in flux as we figure out how to prepare for warning this now 2-town budget. And if Lynn is back, we'll touch on that in the Act 46 update. And I'll kind of give you some thoughts on how we're going to move forward on the budget. Today I started drilling into the assessments of the SU, and the SU meeting is tomorrow night. We may or may not be in a position to warn the budget at that point, but certainly after the end of that meeting, I'll have a pretty good idea of how the assessments are going to sugar off for the towns. And so until we get to the Act 46 piece, that's all I got, unless you have questions.
No questions? Okay. Beth?
So I think that whoever put the agenda together made a mistake on mine because it doesn't match what I sent. And I think they, by mistake, copied and pasted from, it looks like September, August or September. So it's a repeat of a previous. So they don't exactly match what I'm going to go over. So under school activities and events, we're having an alumni panel happening this Thursday. It's a very popular event here where Allison Witherspoon does a nice job with this. She sends something out, and even kids contact her. And former Richford High School graduates come back and they do a panel, and any high school kid who wants to go can sign up. And she tries to get a variety of kids from different colleges, or even some haven't gone to college but are successful, and kids get to ask them questions, and they give them important pieces of advice. And there's some just important dates coming that are coming up on here. We're going to have reassessment week for high school. It's not midterm exams, it's reassessments. And so any student who did not achieve a 3, which is proficiency, on their summative exam for marking periods 1, 2, 3, and 4 are required to reassess, and then they'll get the higher of the 2 grades. And kids who want to reassess to try to do better are encouraged to do so. So students wrote reflections, because our school-wide theme, our pre-K through 12 theme is reflection, goal setting, and metacognition this year. So all the students wrote reflections on how they're doing in their classes, and the teachers wrote comments. So those are going out this week with a letter about reassessment week and the schedule. So that'll all be mailed this week. So that's all I have under activities and events. Items for discussion. We thought we were going to have a dance team, but we don't really have enough kids to field the dance team. We had 4 and Enosburg has 5. So we've decided to work with Enosburg this year, or we're going to form, I signed a member-to-member agreement with Enosburg on Friday. So our kids are going with, and together we'll still have less than 10 kids. Next year, I think we'll have a lot. We have a junior high dance team this year for the first time ever, or the first time in a long time. And so I think that will help to feed our varsity dance team next year. And Jerry, our wood chip just started running this week. When they couldn't get it started, and they ended up having to have the people from Maine who put it in come. Talked to Jerry a lot about preventative maintenance. There were some things that needed to be replaced, so some of the things were replaced, and there's other things that will have to be done at the end of this heating season. So that is usually running well before now, but was just really started like a week ago. I don't think I think that's all I have, unless you have any questions. We're going to need to go into executive session later about personnel, but we're going to wait for Lynn to get here before we do that, so.
Yeah. The email that you sent about Richard bringing his personal equipment and stuff, have we come up with like a list of needs or wants?
Oh, they're on, yeah.
Okay.
For April, of course,
Okay.
and that's at the top of the list. That's why I was kind of telegraphing myself
Yeah.
with that email.
I thought, and I don't know, that van, are we using that van? It doesn't look like it, because it looks like it's
the
snowed in.
student that we use it for has been out on medical leave. So will we? Yes, when
Okay.
she returns.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've seen it
Yeah.
buried in the snowbank, so I was thinking like if we're not using
She's
it.
been out for medical issues, but the plan is for her to
Okay.
come back soon.
Okay,
Okay.
just trying to think outside the
Yeah.
box.
But it was very nice of Richard to do that. He wasn't
Oh,
even,
I
he
know.
rented a trailer to bring it here. I didn't know
Oh
that.
my gosh. Did he get reimbursed?
We're gonna reimburse him
Yeah.
for the use of the tractor and for trucking it over here. I mean, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But he came like around 3 o'clock in the morning, and when I got here at like 5:30, he had most of it done. Nobody asked him. He's just that dedicated.
Yeah.
I have not heard any more from Black River. Have you?
I have not. Did Jerry reach out to them? I think is the last I
I'm
saw.
not sure if he did. I'll send him an email and ask him. I think he would have CC'd me, but. So that's all I have. Lynn, when I talked to her, said that that Morgan could do most of her agenda items.
Okay.
So I can chip away on the easy ones. Under personnel, she gave you the 3 teachers who are likely moving columns next year. When you see the next version of your budget, those figures are in there, and so we've incorporated that. We did not get any retirement notices from December 1st, which is the deadline if they want to get the retirement benefits.
From Richford or Enosburg?
From Richford. Saw that too. I will let her talk about the hiring process for the elementary principal, because that's not one that I'm involved in. No student issue. In terms of negotiations, we have had a few meetings with the Negotiations Council. I think the relevant points for you all are that we have incorporated Sheldon board members in that process. In theory, the master agreement that we're negotiating will cover Sheldon teachers as well, in addition to the special educators and SLPs that we will be hiring at Franklin Northeast. We have been getting signals from the union that they really just wanted to talk about salary and health insurance and not touch language. We've been sending signals that the board is interested in looking at everything as a complete package. And so, as it stands now, Lynn and I will be sitting down with Paul Hatch, and who's the board member who's the head of the negotiations council for you guys, and their two union leaders sometime in early January, and we're gonna see if we can come to some common ground on a big swath of that language. Most of it doesn't change from year to year. They, both Franklin Northeast and Franklin Northwest have been using the same lawyer on the board side, and the unions have been using the same Uniserv director. So even across those two master agreements, the language is very similar. And we don't think that there's gonna be a lot to hinder us making a lot of progress there. And then when we meet as a group in January, we can really just start drilling down in terms of salary and in terms of health insurance and other benefits. We've got 3 meetings set with the teachers, I think January and then 2 in February, excuse me. And then after town meeting day, we have 3 meetings set up with the paraeducators. We will not be negotiating with Sheldon Paras for that contract yet because they have another year in their contract. I don't know if we'll invite them to just be at the table to get familiar with us. And in theory, if we come up with a master agreement that's better than theirs, I think that their paraeducator unit could vote to come onto ours a year early. That's probably going to be a likely scenario in Sheldon with the teachers. I don't know if it's going to be relevant for the paras. And then moving to this bigger district doesn't really impact you all. Your custodians and your paraeducators are already unionized. When you merge with Enosburg, those 2 classes of employees there will become unionized, and they've not been so far. So there's going to be a little work pulling those folks together. Rob Evans is doing a presentation on school safety at the SU board meeting tomorrow, which is at 6:30. Everybody going to be there?
I'm
No.
planning on it.
I won't be there.
One no. It's one of you, okay. And then the last thing on Lynn's agenda is an Act 46 merger update. I will let you know what I know with the caveat that I got a message from her saying that a lot of what we thought we knew is different, and that's what she's racing back to tell us. We've got a special meeting warned for 5 o'clock here in the cafeteria, which is the night before the Richford Enosburg girls game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That is the organizing meeting of this new Enosburg Richford UUSD. It's a pretty pro forma agenda that we'll work through. When we leave tonight, we will have 2 of you elected to the transition board, and tomorrow night we're going to meet with the transition board and sort of walk through that agenda and explain what needs to happen at each step. But we're basically creating a new district, so we need to elect a clerk, a moderator, a treasurer. We need to establish Robert's Rules of Order. We need to decide when the annual meeting is going to be of that district. A couple other housekeeping issues. The 2 big issues on this side that I see are, first of all, we've put the potential out there that you could change the district name at that point. And so everybody should be thinking about ideas on that, and we'll put that to the transition board tomorrow as well. But we wanted to get that out there early because we want to know what the name is going forward so we can get your tax ID number, which is the first step in doing a lot of the work that we have to do. And we don't want to have to change that 3 or 4 or 6 months from now. The other potentially big issue that we'll need to decide that night is whether you want to conduct these meetings and these elections by Australian ballot or by voting from the floor. In your default article, or in your proposed articles that were defeated, I believe you suggested that school board seats would be by ballot and that the budget vote would be from the floor. And that was really, my recollection is pushed by one member of the 2 boards that were together. So the transition board's gonna have to decide whether that's something that they wanna support, and then that's something that's gonna be elected by the voters that night. But I think it would be good for the 4 members of the transition board and also the 2 full boards behind them to sort of be on all the same page about which direction you want to go on that. Once that meeting happens, you will have a transitional board, which consists of 2 people from Richford and 2 people from Enosburg. In Enosburg, last week, they appointed Rick Bartholomew and Polly Rico as their 2. And we'll leave tonight hopefully with 2 from here. The main work that the transition board does is prepares a budget that they can then pass off to the incoming board once we have those official elections. And they can also work on articles of agreement to propose to the voters if there's something that you want that's different from the default articles. One of the things that I hope to get to tomorrow before the transitional board is to give you guys a side-by-side. So the articles that are coming down from the state are here. This is what you guys proposed a year ago. Here are where the differences are, so you can kind of quickly go through there and say, yeah, we'd rather have 3 members from each town than 2, or we'd rather do the voting from the floor rather than Australian ballot, so that we're not spinning our wheels as a group trying to figure out where those differences are. The election of seats will be on town meeting day. So initially, at least, there will be 2 members from each town that need to run for election for that 4-seat board. If you guys do decide to expand that to 3 and 3 or whatever, we would vote on the ability to do that. We'd have to find out from the lawyers if we can try to elect those seats at the same time, which is, I think, how they've done it when schools have moved from 3 members to 5 members. Shall the voters expand to 5 members? And if so, shall Jane and Bob be elected to those 2 additional seats? But we'll have that run through legal before we warn anything on that. And then at that town meeting day vote, the voters will get to decide on whether they want to accept the proposed changes to those articles of agreement. And as far as I know, that will be a commingled vote, as will the votes on the seats. After March town meeting day, we will have officially elected board members. We'll immediately swear them in. We'll immediately have a meeting and finalize the budget and get that budget out to vote in April. And that'll have to be ballot, and it'll be a special vote, unfortunately. And we're thinking about timing on that, trying to make sure that we're not going to be hitting any school vacations when people are out of town. Any questions on that? It's going to be a sprint, definitely. The budget work is slowing up a little bit right now, which is okay because there's so much uncertainty around that. But I think once the SU budget and the pre-K-8 side budget are put to bed in January, we'll really focus in February on finalizing this one, so that when you have elected board members, it really is just, here's the budget. In theory, it's gonna be all the same people who've been working on it, and so we'll just pass it off to them and they'll approve it. Any questions? Again, that's all subject to change in the next couple of minutes. So today, we're gonna need to find out who your 2 transition board members are. The way the law was written is that by default, it's the chair and the clerk who were, as they were in last July, which is Mort and Andy. I know Andy's said in the past that he's interested in passing that off to someone. I know Pam and Kevin are both willing to serve on that new board. So we'll have to sort that out and figure out how you guys want to do that. Want to have a conversation and settle on 2, that's okay. If we need to do a vote, we can do a vote.
What's the time commitment, Morgan? I mean, how many meetings and stuff is that gonna?
Well, after that January 2nd, we're not really sure. It's going to depend on how quickly folks come to agreement on the articles. So that could be a meeting, or that could be several meetings if there's, if consensus is hard to reach on that. The budget will be busy once we hit February. And I would anticipate we're gonna have a few meetings on that. We'll probably start in January, because in January we have to figure out what the high school tuition rate is gonna be for the new district. So we have to at least have some conversations about, yeah, the staffing pattern looks sort of right, or we're gonna need more people, or what have you. But I would be prepared for a lot of work. And I will say that the transitional board meetings, they will be warned public meetings after January 2nd, so they're open, and we'll certainly encourage all the current board members to come in and weigh in on that. It'll only be those 4 that really have the authority to say, yeah, these are the articles that we're pushing forward. But, you know, other than that, it can be collaborative.
So the rest of the Enosburg board and the boards as they are now will no longer.
They will still be meeting, so
They will
they're
still-
gonna be meeting until, we're gonna be running the school until the end of June.
Okay.
And then we'll have a wrap-up meeting or 2 in the fall to accept the audit and just kind of close down the paperwork of the district. The only reason that would go out longer is if there was some sort of litigation that you were involved in. But there's nothing on the horizon right now in any of our districts. But you're still, you are still the duly appointed school board. And so at that March town meeting day, whoever's seats are up will be running for re-election, or somebody will be running for election to those seats. So there will actually be 4 school board races at that time, potentially.
But will they be voted on by both towns, is that? Yes.
The unified board will be.
Right.
The remaining terms on that Richford board will just be Richford voters.
Okay.
And I'll find out who's up. Okay, so I think that looks like Pam and Mandy's seats are up in March. And it-
So what when the board becomes one with Enosburg. Even though our seats are up,
So there are gonna be two separate boards running in parallel, well, three, because
okay, right,
there'll be the unified board,
right,
which will start in March
Mhm.
with their official members, and there'll be that transitional board until then. At that point, they're gonna be setting policy, making hiring decisions, and basically preparing to take over the school system on July 1.
Mhm.
The Richford board and the Enosburg board will still exist separately. They'll have potentially 2 new members each in March. Hopefully you guys will run again for the remaining 3 months of that.
So, and then in July, that would end.
And then in
as-
July, we should not be meeting as a board, certainly regularly. I
Right.
would anticipate we're gonna have one meeting in the fall at some point, barring
So there still
anything
would be
unforeseen.
a Richford board and an Enosburg board.
Yep.
For a limited amount of time.
Right.
Mhm.
They're sort of both doing real work together for 3 months. And then the unified board takes over
Takes
the
over,
operation,
and
and the Richford and Enosburg board wind things down. So I'm gonna kick this to Andy pretty soon, but my understanding from Lynn is that Pam, Kevin, and Mort are all interested. Mandy was not so much. Andy not so much.
So between you three.
Vote on it. You wanna wait till the end of the meeting, see if Lynn is gonna come in and tell you it's actually a lot more work than I just sold you.
I have an idea how much it's gonna be just based on
No,
previous meetings that we've attended.
Right?
seeing as how they had set the chair and the clerk already as the default, does Mort automatically would like that get defaulted?
I don't think necessarily.
Okay.
I think if you guys both wanted it, we wouldn't have a vote, but
Right.
if it's open, I think it's open.
Okay.
And this is one where unless Lynn has new information, I don't think there's a way to expand them both to 3.
Okay.
Because they had 3 interested in Enosburg as well.
Okay.
And
How did they decide?
they talked around for a while, and then one person decided that because of the timing and the workload that they were gonna step out. And I think they are hoping that it'll be a 3-and-3 board in
Eventually,
March, and that
yeah.
they will probably run again at that point.
No, if somebody else wanted to in March put their name into the hat,
So it'll be an open election.
it would be open, so
Yeah.
it, like, just like,
There could be 20 people running
Right,
for those
okay.
2 seats or those 3 seats.
They just have to fill out the
right, get the.
petition just like anybody else.
Yeah.
But it would be, so the current configuration is 2 from Richford, 2 from Enosburg,
Yeah,
until the default articles of agreement are voted upon.
right. Until
If
they're-
that's the case,
If they're changed, exactly.
which we,
I would, I think I can speak for Lynn, we would love it to be more than a 4-member board, because
Yeah.
we've got real concerns about quorum.
Right.
quorum, yeah, and just 4 people is
Right.
not a lot of opinions when you're
So,
talking
right,
$17-18 million budget and
there was a reason that you guys ended at 3-and-3, and I think it was a good reason.
Right.
It would be a more manageable board. And then the SU board makeup will change a couple of times over the next few months. Once we hit March, the Enosburg Richford Unified Board gets a seat on the SU board. And then once we hit July, the 2 unified boards will each get 3 members at the SU. And then all of the dissolving districts will get one member until they actually close up shop. So the quorum's gonna be shifting every couple of months, and the membership on that.
And the membership would need to be different people, like one person couldn't hold the Richford and the unified board membership, correct?
They could.
Okay.
We would have to figure out if they get 2 votes or not, and if they count twice towards a quorum.
That's true.
But I don't think there's any restriction to it.
That's kind of
We
sticky.
didn't, we just decided we weren't gonna go there with the new unified board right now, because it was easier than incurring a legal bill figuring it out. But we can certainly figure that out if we need to. I could make the argument either way.
Initially, I don't think it would be a big deal. It's July 1st, maybe when,
Right.
you know, if he doesn't run and doesn't want to be a board member, or I say, you know, whoever doesn't run, doesn't want to be a board member, and then you're kind of forcing somebody at the end to become a SU member.
Right. If that's the most difficult thing we have to figure out, we will be pretty psyched, but, yeah, cause if you were elected by 2 boards, the question will be whether you get 2 votes. And if you don't come to a meeting, are we down 2 people? Because it could be very hard to get a quorum in that case.
Right, yeah.
So, sorry, Mr. Chair, what are you thinking?
What am I thinking? We have 3 people that want to. The question is, which one wants to bow out for this?
I know you were around the initial round of the Act 46. I was around the second round. I think it's important that somebody has some of the history and background, is a part of the transition. You know, one of the 2 of us was a part of it, so I feel one of the 2 of us should be there. I know you don't want to be, so therefore, I guess I'm stating my case.
It's not
for
that I
why
don't
should
want to be, that I have
It's the
too many other
commitment. No,
commitments
I
going
understand
on,
that.
yeah. So. Kevin's expressed his willingness, now Morgan, Pam.
Throw our names in? No.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how many times it's gonna meet and, you know, what's involved in it, obviously.
Yep.
I think for all 3 of us.
Yep.
You know, availability is gonna be the key. You know, with days.
What did we
hours?
meet that August and September? 9 times?
When we were doing the plan, yes. Felt like
And are they
more.
normally evening meetings or daytime meetings? Or?
They are normally evening meetings. I would guess that won't change because Polly's a teacher,
Right.
and Rick's got his practice. We would love middle of the day meetings, but we'll have to figure out
Right,
what works
right.
for those 4. And I think what we'll do is after that January 2nd larger public meeting, we'll do a quick organizing meeting with those 4 right after that, so that we're legal and ready to go, and you know, probably bang out the next 5 dates or whatever we think it's gonna take and get them all on the books. Actually, we'll probably start planning those right away, because even though you're not officially sworn in until the 2nd, hopefully at the end of tonight, we'll know who the 4 people are. And so we can start booking days, because we've got a lot already on the calendar.
Do you know what days you're looking at, Morgan?
I do not. I can maybe tell you, give you a general idea what days we're not gonna be. So the second is the big meeting. We've got negotiations with teachers on the 3rd. Board meetings on Monday and Tuesday the next week. Monday the following week, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have negotiations meetings. I think generally it's not gonna be Mondays because we already have a board meeting that day. Negotiations, I believe, are generally gonna be falling on Wednesday nights. And then we're catching some extra board meetings on Tuesdays normally.
If it's Thursdays or Fridays, and Pam, it's all yours, because I won't be able to do either Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way. That's what I can't do.
We don't have anything on Saturdays and Sundays yet.
You might.
Not going to either.
And most likely they wouldn't be Friday evenings, would they?
I would hope not.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
The guess is they'll be Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday and Thursday. I think that was when the round 2 meetings were mostly Wednesday and Thursday nights.
And now, would they all be in Enosburg, or since it's would we flip-flop back and forth? I mean, that might be something to.
Yeah, we'd probably
I think
flip
they
them
should flip
around.
them.
Yeah, I think that would be, you know,
Could
fair.
do them in our office
Right.
too.
Uh-huh.
We will, yeah, we'll need to sort that out.
Hey.
So what are you thinking more?
If it's gonna be a Thursday, then I'm gonna bail on it, definitely, because I won't be able to do it Thursday till maybe April. Maybe Wednesday's about it.
So Pam, are you willing to?
Yeah, yeah.
So it sounds like Kevin and Pam are gonna be our representatives.
So we need a motion and a vote on that.
Okay, do I hear a motion? Do they have to be made separately or both together?
If we move together.
I make a motion to have Pam Hazen and Dennis Blaine as our.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Dennis is not a resident. I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Now do we need, what haven't we covered with Lynn now?
So the only thing I didn't cover on yours was the principal hiring process.
Wow, I like board meetings like this. I show up late and get all my stuff done. It's great. So I've been, before I switch gears, did you mention the meeting tomorrow night?
I haven't yet.
Okay. So Pam and Kevin, right? Just to go over, not have an actual meeting, but we have an SU board meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. So I was hoping to be able to have you guys look at the warning if you could come at 5:30. We'll just go through how that organizational meeting will flow on the 3rd. Because it would probably not feel comfortable to walk into the meeting on the 3rd and not know how that's gonna look and flow.
And then what we did for the other side was kind of basically gave the board members an annotated warning. So it says, Article 1, shall the voters do this? And then we'll have a paragraph under it. Somebody needs to make a motion that says either this or this, and this is the reason for it. And if this question comes up, this is what you say. Because there's a lot of just process stuff that we don't tend to need to do at our meetings now.
Okay, now I'll switch gears to the principal hiring piece. I had talked to you guys about advertising late January the last time we talked, and I've had some second thoughts on that, and I think that I might like to get that advertisement out just before the break, so that if there are people with some downtime before the break, they might see that out there. And it could, if we get a good pool of candidates, mean that we can bump up the interview process a few weeks.
Yeah, it's a good
Okay.
idea, yeah.
Yep.
And then I do have to bring you into executive to discuss personnel.
What's the window that you would normally keep that open for? 30 days, 45 days?
Well, it depends, like I've had the director of special programs open for
I'm gonna write something down.
7 weeks probably now. We didn't have a lot of candidates the first time through, so I decided after, I think, 3 or 4 weeks of having it open to reopen it so it gets pushed to the top again. So I'm trying to be strategic around vacation time and might people be looking at it
Right.
over the break
Yep.
too, so 4 or 5 weeks.
Okay.
You ready to go into executive now? Okay,
Sure.
can I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Going in executive session at 5:11.
Else on mine, Morgan, you already went through it all?
I think I got it all.
Okay.
Unless you have changes to what he told us. He said you were supposed to come with changes.
Well, I said maybe six stuff could all be different by the time you got here.
Did he explain where I've been today?
No.
I was in Montpelier with a group of superintendents who are in the situation where they're helping boards who are being forced to merge. And we just had some consultation time with state level people. So it's complex. And we're gonna be talking more at the transition board level about what that means to us in terms of timelines and the work on the articles of agreement. There's some complexities that we need to keep digging at. So the tricky part, and it was kind of consensus with everybody that was there, is that each phase of the Act 46 process is a little bit different. So the things that people who voluntarily merged in phase 1 had to do and address as a result of their phase was this way. And then the people who, in phase 2 chose to merge, the things they had to do were this way. That's where that Berkshire Bakersfield kind of falls. And now where we have forced merger, there's some things that we still all have to figure out how that's gonna work with the merge. So it'll be a process that's evolving as we go through. But we'll go through it together and we'll figure it out while we're doing it. Thinking that we might see that some clarity, some guidance coming soon from some of our state level support people, either around budgeting process or timelines or articles, is kind of what they were talking about today. That they're anticipating they'll be able to send us some more guidance on some of those pieces that are a little more ambiguous than others. So, yeah.
I thought it was interesting that you said the lawsuit hasn't even been filed yet.
To my understanding that the lawsuit for your side, they're intending to file today or Wednesday was the last I heard. The lawsuit for Stowe, that's separate from the group lawsuit, was filed 2 weeks ago, maybe?
Last Thursday.
Last week, okay.
Because
So
they're doing it on their own, is that?
they're doing one on their
right?
own and they filed in Lamoille County. The lawsuit for the group is being filed in Washington County. So I would assume we'll hear something when it does actually. We're not really on the email thread, so we get it secondhand once it's already happened, so. That's my understanding. You guys might have a more direct line than we do.
We get emails.
Lots of them. Yeah.
Lots of them. I have yet to see one with a date. I don't think,
No,
Nothing
no.
really yet.
yeah. Yeah, I just haven't seen one with a date and saying when it's going to be filed.
So you're probably gonna wish you were sitting close enough to me to kick me, but you're not, so I'm gonna just say this anyway. I know that, been some guidance from people who are involved in the lawsuit, through people leading the lawsuit, to do some things to slow the process up, like not organize or not show up or things like that.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was wondering about.
one of the things I just want to remind people of is that our kids are counting on us being able to operate. Our teachers are counting on us being able to operate. And I understand people's desire to resist as long as you can resist. For me, my license depends on me following the law and the statute, so I need to keep us on track and moving forward. Our teachers are going to want to negotiate, and you, the new merged board, for both sides, those are the entities that are going to have to approve whatever collective bargaining agreement we come up with. So we just need to be ready to be operational for our kids, and we have principals that still need to negotiate within our SU, and if we can't have those meetings, some of the things don't get done. And ultimately, the kids are the ones who are going to suffer, and the organization itself would suffer. So I don't expect that any of you are following that guidance. That guidance makes me nervous, because I think that the repercussions for kids are a little scary with that strategy. That's all I have.
Okay. Is there any board business?
Actually, did you talk about a retirement thing?
Well, I wrote a name down and said, and showed it to Morgan, but I don't think Morgan was aware. He said there was no retirement, and I thought, well, I think there is,
Well,
right?
when I wrote this on December 1, and there was no December 1 retirement notice. I did have a notice that I received on December 3rd. So Andrew Hathaway is not planning on returning next year. So you will have that position open.
So does that count as in the retirement language, or was he too late?
There are two parts of retirement language. Okay. So there's one that has a January 1 date and one that has a December 1 date. So you can pass that around. Sorry, I forgot I had one more piece there, Andy.
It's all right.
I didn't know if something had changed. I didn't think so, because he and I had talked, but.
Yeah, I wrote these
Okay.
December 1.
I write notes, you're supposed to pay attention.
Did you hear what the governor said today or yesterday?
I actually haven't read it yet, but I flagged it when I was leaving the meeting. I was trying to get here for as close to the start time as I could. You want to summarize it?
I didn't read it word for word, just kind of the headlines, and that doesn't feel the board should have the authority, the State Board of Education should have the authority that they have, that it should be, that they're appointed, they're not voted members, and that it should be someone within the administration that has that type of authority to force mergers.
The subtext was really, we don't need a Board of Education anymore. And was making a historical argument that in the past, everything was run by boards. You had the Liquor Control Board, you had the Mental Health Board, and slowly they've all been replaced by agencies under the governor.
Who is saying this?
Governor Scott.
Oh.
And so I think he would like to be able to be done with them and have his people make all those decisions.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's kind of.
It was on Tigger and just sent it to me today.
Today?
Last day or so.
So he wants to do away with the State Board of Education
My father calls me
and
right
the
now.
boards at the local level? No, just the state board. Okay.
Right now, Republican and name only. Yeah.
Campaigned on one platform. Now is turning things around.
it still snowing when you came in?
Yeah, it's starting to get very
Get bad.
slippery.
I know, the UPS guy came to our house just before I left, and he said the roads were starting to get
Yeah,
bad.
you could feel it change from between Enosburg and here.
Uh-huh, yeah, he said.
And then when I
the
pulled
roads
into the
changed.
driveway, I thought, oh,
Yeah.
it's really.
No, somebody came
Already.
barreling around by the Catholic Church when I was coming up, and they're like this, and I thought, geez, slow down.
So there's no board business, I guess I'd entertain a motion to
And
end.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.